Hi, I'm Charlie, and this is Stereo Hysteria. Our April artists of the month, The Dentists, were an indie pop band from Kent in southeastern England, comprised of Mick Murphy on guitar and lead vocals, Bob Collins on lead guitar, Mark Matthews on bass, and, over the course of their career, 3 different drummers, Ian Smith, Alan Jones, and Rob Grigg. They quickly established themselves within the local Medway scene for their propulsive, jangly sound and whimsical pastoral lyrics. In the mid-1990s, they signed to major American label East West Records, released 2 excellent albums, and toured the United States opening for Shonen Knife. But unfortunately, by the end of 1995, they had disbanded. However, most of the members of the band remained active musically, starting several bands and side projects with and without each other, which built on the Dentists' musical legacy of top-notch guitar pop. Currently, Mark and Bob are playing together in a superb group called the Treasures of Mexico, and last month, they Skyped in from each of their homes, while under lockdown, to speak with Stereo Hysteria about their music in and out of the Dentists. We'll be hearing that conversation over the next 2 hours, but we'll begin with the lead-off track from the band's classic 1985 debut album, Some People Are on the Pitch, They Think It's All Over, It Is Now, called Flowers Around Me.
Tell me why you leave me now, just as you found me, flowers around me.
Well, I usually like to ask at the beginning just a little bit about your upbringings from a musical perspective, like if either of you had particularly musical families or if there were like formative influences that you had that spurred you to pick up a guitar.
Well, while Mark's sorting himself out, I'll start.
Yeah, go for it.
So, no, I didn't really have a musical family. There was not really any musicians directly. I had an uncle that played guitar, but not that was ever in my life, really. So not from a playing sense. But I suppose formative, my older sister, who's Audrey, who's 11 years older than me, she was massively into like music of the 60s because that was her era, and the Beatles and stuff. So my lifelong obsession with the Beatles began at an early age, even though I was just about too young to remember them. Then as a young-ish child, early 70s, glam rock, all that kind of stuff. And then later on, when we were both like, early teenagers, 13, 14, that was kind of punk new wave, Jam, the Undertones, Coax, etc. So, yeah, for me personally, that stuff, and because of the Beatles, it got more and more into the other groups from the 60s and stuff.
From my point of view, I gather that my grandmother played violin on my dad's side, but I never met her. She died before I was born. But that's the only musical person in the family. Well, having thought about this the other day, my interest in music, I think, stems from the fact that my dad was a graphic designer and worked on some records and some album covers. And he used to do work for RCA on a regular basis and brought records home. And I always thought, this thing that goes around and makes a noise, and it's, so we used to get David Bowie and The Sweet and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I think that's where my obsession with music came along.
Okay.
And then obviously Bob and I have known each other since school, so it kind of... I was never a big Beatles fan, never a big Stones fan, anything like that. I was a bit more obscure. That's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise it makes no sense.
And when did you start playing together? You mentioned that you were both at school together. Were you just jamming socially, or was there a drive to start a band?
This is where Bob gives you the exact date and time. Go, Bob.
Okay. Yeah. Well, when we were about 15, there was probably about maybe 10 boys in the year, and it was all boys. We went to boys' school. That a couple of people started getting guitars. I didn't know anyone who played guitar younger than that, like kids now, but kids these days. So it was just when we got to that age, there was probably about, very small number of us. So we ended up just kind of jamming with each other. And then Mark said to me, do you fancy forming a band with two basses? Which I thought, stupid idea. And I think where he got it from, and I only realised this recently, but there was an old clip of The Cure on Top of the Pops doing Primary, where they had two bass players, Robert Super playing bass. But anyway, and that was basically, and then Mark knew Ian from his primary school, the first drummer, and basically we had one rehearsal with two basses and drums, and then I decided I was going to borrow. I didn't play a guitar at that time, I only had a bass, so I borrowed someone else's guitar, and that's really how the nucleus of the Dentists started, and that was in 1982.
Was the style sort of what it became, just in a formative way, or were you playing a different type of material earlier on?
No, not really. It was just, to begin with, we were just trying to play songs by people we liked, mainly Echo and the Bunnymen. So it sounded, if you heard it, it was more of a kind of post-punk kind of thing. We were probably playing for about a year and a half before Mick joined, Mick Murphy, the singer of the Dentists. And so we all of a sudden, we not only had a singer, which we never had before really, but we had a second guitarist. And then that was probably when the sound of the band started changing, and probably from Mick joining the band, like in a very quick period of months, we then probably started to sound like the Dentists that recorded the first album.
And what was the band's approach to songwriting? Like, was there a specific songwriter? Did you finish songs separately and bring them to a rehearsal, or was it a collaborative process?
I think in the early days, the principle of the Dentist, and Bob could disagree when he comes back online in a minute, but initially Mick pretty much wrote the music or would come to rehearsals with an idea for a song. We had some songs, Bob and I had some songs, and I'm not so sure we kept any of those in. I think we wrote new stuff from the outset. And then Mick would normally bring a tune, and literally he never, one of the things that people don't necessarily appreciate about the Dentist is for the first, I don't know how many years, and Bob will clarify, Mick didn't write any of the lyrics. The lyrics, he would just give the songs to me and Bob, and me and Bob would write the lyrics. So he'd have the melody and the tune. The rest, we'd all kind of help in terms of editing it and saying that bit works, that doesn't work. And then it would be up to me or Bob and Ian sometimes actually as well, to be fair, to come up with lyrics. All Mick songs were about, what was it, War, Death and Glory or something most of the time, weren't they?
Yeah.
We changed them into flowers, paving skirts and...
Gardens.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we did have quite a lot of our own songs, and part of the reason Mick joined the band, or wanted to join the band, because he really liked our songs. But he said, we haven't got a singer, which was true. But then after he joined the band, he immediately started writing much better songs than we had. So all of the songs that he liked that were the reason for him joining the band gradually got kind of bumped out of the way. So in the early days, well, in most of our career, most of the songs were Mick songs, or Mick originated the songs. But yeah, as Mark says, I think Mick didn't have much of a definite style. He just had some really good songs. So we were what we were. I think if Mick had just fallen in with another bunch of musicians, he would have written the same songs. He would have been quite happy in a goth band or something, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So a lot of his songs had that about them. Like, so the song Doreen, when he came, that was originally, he came and said, "Oh, I've got this good song. It's called Glory, 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 Glory." Yeah, so we changed that to Doreen, Doreen, Doreen. So, in another hands, that could have ended up sounding like the Sisters of Mercy.
It's Corrosion or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Originally released on the B-side to the band's 1985 debut single, Strawberries Are Growing in My Garden and It's Wintertime. Here is the aforementioned Doreen.
The sound of the band, you had basically Ian, who wanted to be like Keith Moon and was really into Keith Moon and Mitch Mitchell and that kind of drumming style. I was really wanted to play like either Pete Townsend or Roger McGuinn and, stuff. So, yeah, it was just a weird combination of things.
I did want to ask about the influence of your location. I know, Bob, you literally wrote the book on the subject, but could you speak just a little bit about the influence of the Medway scene on the band? Because there seems to be like a pronounced 60s influence and DIY ethos to a lot of the bands that came out of that era.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just close to that as you. I mean, from my perspective, again, being sort of 17, 18, 19, maybe even 16, I can't remember, we used to go and see gigs, and the bands playing locally, as you probably know, Milkshakes and the Prisoners were the two bands playing locally. The Milkshakes in particular were very sort of, I don't know about punk rock, but their attitude was anybody can play guitar, anybody can make a noise. Your amps don't have to be expensive, they can be shit. In fact, in the Milkshakes case, the crappier the amps were or the guitars, the better. Mm-hmm. And then the Prisoners were almost like the sort of more slick professional version of that, with a very heavily 60s bent. I mean, Mickey from the Milkshakes really, I mean, he would take his inspiration pretty much from anywhere, although again, it sounded very 50s, 60s, I guess, but he was quite happy, playing punk rock songs if he could. So we sort of lent towards the Prisoners kind of 60s-y sound, because that was the the one era that kind of brought us all together. I'd spent a lot of my time sitting around listening to the Doors and Love and all that kind of stuff. Ian and Bob were obviously heavily into the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks. And what we I think we had our own ideas about where we wanted to go with the sound. So we wanted to be poppier. We wanted to be more Echo and the Bunnymen, Orange Juice, all that sort of thing. But we took the attitude and the way of approaching it from the Milkshakes and the Prisoners. And then we sort of became, I don't know if it's too much to say, but I think we became a third arm of the Medway sound. But I might be overplaying our position, Bob. I don't know what you think. Because we sort of we were an alternative for people who sort of appreciated what the Prisoners and the Milkshakes were doing, but didn't really like what they were doing in the songs. But then the Dentists came along, and we sounded much more contemporary. So we were much more acceptable to another whole set of people in Medway, I think. And eventually, we brought all the sides together, and the Claim to a certain degree as well. I don't know if you know about the Claim, but to a lesser degree, they were sort of another area where, again, a bit more contemporary. I don't know, it's a bit of a long-winded answer. What do you think, Bob? Anything to add?
Yeah, not bad. I'd say the songwriting wasn't really influenced by the other bands, but the whole ethos of how you played, how you behaved on stage, the whole
how you recorded,
the way you recorded, the way like the amps and guitars used, and also the fact that at that time contemporary bands. We didn't like the way they sounded, almost anyone, even the Smiths. We liked the Smiths, but didn't really like their production. So the Milkshakes and Prisoners were really their whole kind of thing was driven by why do modern records sound so shit when old records by Johnny Kidd and the Pirates sound much better, even though they are much more, primitively recorded. And so, well, there's various reasons for that. And it's about the equipment, the way it's recorded, the whole ethos about that. So we kind of took that and the way the Milkshakes kind of were on stage, which is basically, I suppose, not taking yourselves too seriously, putting on a little bit of a show, not in a kind of, show band sense, but just, not being sort of pouty and serious, although the Prisoners were a bit more like that. But if we'd come from somewhere that, not Medway, we'd have probably written the same songs, but the way we played them and the way we sounded would have probably been completely different.
Here's another excellent track from Some People Around the Pitch called I Had an Excellent Dream.
I'll only cry, I can't guarantee that
Because, yeah, I can definitely hear on the debut album, Some People Are on the Pitch, that DIY sound, and I think that's probably why it has kind of I would say it sounds timeless in a way that a lot of albums released in 1985 do not, decidedly.
Yeah.
What was the process of recording that record like?
Well, we recorded it at a studio not far from where we live in Kent, Woolly Studios on the Isle of Sheppey. And basically, it was Alan from The Prisoners who produced it for us, because The Prisoners had already made 2 albums by that point. So they were like veterans compared to us. And Alan was into kind of helping us and wanting to kind of give us the benefit of his small amount of experience, although to us at the time it felt like a vast experience. It had to be recorded fairly quickly because we didn't have the money to do anything else. But also, we thought it was actually good to record it quickly because, you know, the whole ethos was, you know, you don't mess around, fart around in the studio for weeks on end. You play the songs, you do them. So we recorded and mixed in 4 or 5 days. But even then, like, I remember Billy Childish saying, "How could he take that long to make an album? It's ridiculous."
Yeah, I think it was 5 days. I think it was a package. It was like 5 days recording 500 albums or something for £1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was something along those lines. It was
They did a
deal. Yeah, as Bob says, we thought, God, 5 days, that sounds like ages. But actually, although we spent a lot of time mucking around.
It was just about right. Didn't need any longer, really, did it?
Yeah. And Alan from The Prisoners probably, well, Jamie to a lesser extent, but Alan was always very supportive of the Dentist. And in the early days, the Prisoners, I don't think the Milkshakes ever gave us any gigs, did they, Bob? But the Prisoners used to.
We only played with the Milkshakes once. Only once.
St George's.
Same bill, yeah. 29th September 1984, I've got the flyer.
Well, the Dentist, the Milkshakes and the Prisoners played once.
Yeah, once all together, yeah. And I think that was the only time we played with the Milkshakes, yeah.
So Alan was always very supportive of the Dentist. He sort of understood what we were trying to do from the outset. And then to this day, he's still quite supportive.
Yeah, I think in terms of like fan base, I suppose Milkshakes and Prisoners had a bit of a crossover. Prisoners and the Dentist had a bit of a crossover. Milkshakes and Dentists maybe not so much. You know, obviously Milkshakes appeal to lots of people who were, I suppose, you know, into rock and roll and maybe psychobilly, although they weren't psychobillies themselves, obviously. But yeah, they had definitely had much more of that kind of 50s stuff. But then we had lots of fans that didn't like either of those bands either at all. So. Yeah.
And the do-it-yourself philosophy also sort of led into you forming your own record labels with Spruck and Tambourine. Was that sort of a reflection of the DIY spirit or just the most expeditious way of getting the recordings out there?
A bit of both, really. Again, Billy, the influence of the Milkshakes and the Prisoners to a certain degree was very much, if you've got the ability to do it yourself, then just do it. You don't need to wait for the big signing or the big record company to come down from London and say, wow, blah, 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 blah. Just kind of do it. So the original intention of the Dentist was just to be able to make a single. That was the height of our ambition. And we were done after Strawberries. And then we got an opportunity to make an album. And then it sort of spiraled from there, really. But I don't think anybody, we never, until the later days, we never really courted any labels that I can remember until we met Jim, really, didn't we? Did we? An American guy.
Well, yeah, we probably half-heartedly sent a few tapes off. I remember getting one. Didn't you remember we got a letter from A&M just saying, "Oh, you really should have synthesizers. That's the thing nowadays."
Right.
Put it in the bin. Yeah, so I think we wouldn't have said no. We would have quite liked to have been signed, but we would have liked to have got signed by a label that just said, you know, make your own records the same way you normally do, and we'll kind of sell loads for you. I don't think we would have coped very well with signing to anyone who would have wanted to kind of change us or radically do something else with us. So, yeah, it was, we wouldn't have said no to being signed, but it just kind of didn't happen. We were probably just not very good at it either, just didn't really know and we never had that was the other thing, we never had a manager, not for ages, because we didn't really want to give anyone else control. I think we probably thought if you have a manager, then the manager tells you what to do, and we don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that probably didn't help either.
We didn't play the game very well, did we, Bob? We played it badly.
No.
Next up, we'll hear a rollicking song from Writhing on the Shag Pile, a 1987 EP released on the band's own Tambourine Records, called Just Like Oliver Reed.
Days go by, each moment dies inside my mind. Let me hear you say the words I long to find. And you're pissed again, you're Has it hurt before? Don't know it anymore. Hey, hey, won't you tell me please, only ring? Won't you say something I can believe? Won't you just take me back to my world? And your feet again, your miles from home, and you wonder tonight just goes so slow. So many miles to go. 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 So many miles to go.
What was the response to the self-released records? Were you getting a lot of sales? Were you getting reviews? Were they...
Well, you say that. We sold out the first pressing fairly easily. I mean, we only pressed 500.
Yeah.
But the first single, when Bob really thinks about it, got some phenomenal reviews, and we were surprised as anyone. I mean, there was a magazine in the UK called Smash Hits, which was kind of like a tiny glossy magazine, and they rang me up and said that the guy who wrote that, I can't remember the guy's name, Bob again will fill in, but the guy rang up and said he wanted...
William Hurt,
I think. Yeah, that sounds familiar. He rang up and said he wanted to make our single of the fortnight, but his editor said, we've never heard of the Dentist, you can't do that, you have to do something else. But if you read the review, it's clear that he found that the best single that he'd come across. And, you know, John Peel played it and various other people. So the actual reception was, beyond our wildest dreams, really, at the time. But, I mean, we didn't shift loads and loads of units, as they say. But, it achieved all our objectives, I think, Bob, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, we never... So the Smash Hits was really good because that had a circulation that was more mainstream than even the music press, because it was a bit of a pop magazine. In the music press itself, though, we never had any sustained coverage in like the NME or the Melody Maker. It was just like the odd review now and again. So we brought a record out. If we were lucky, one of them might review it, but that was it. You know, we never got a period of sustained coverage, and maybe John Peel would play something like once or twice when it came out, but that was it, on national radio. So yeah, we never had the coverage that even relatively other small indie bands sort of had.
We weren't on a trendy label, and we were doing it all ourselves. It was a bit hit and miss, but we did get supported by Radio 1 in the UK. It was Radio 1 on nothing pretty much in those days. Andy Kershaw picked up on us, didn't he? Andy Kershaw picked up on
Yeah.
And then Janice Long. And Andy Kershaw and Janice Long had the slot before John Peel.
Okay.
So John Peel would have the 10 o'clock slot in the evening, and Andy Kershaw and Janice Long would be from 8 until 10, I think, Bob, is that right? So we were getting kind of evening plays on the trendy indie shows on Radio 1. Not massively, but fairly regularly. If we brought something out, it would get played. So that was pretty cool. But again, that was us physically sending them the record. Me and Bob actually went up to... Did we go a couple of times and stood in the BBC reception, didn't we? Trying to catch the DJs as they turned up and physically hand them a copy of the record. In those days, there were no downloads or not even any CDs, I think, when we first started. Well, I don't know. So it was very much DIY. But again, with the milkshakes and the prisoners kind of philosophy, that we thought that was the norm. That's how you did it.
Here's the A-side of a 1988 maxi single released on Belgian label Antler Records, called The Fun Has Arrived.
according to my experts in that country, they're huge stars in Belgium. Those are the Dentists, now recording for a Belgian label, and that's called The Fun Has Arrived.
So in 1986, the first of your drummers, Ian, parted ways with you. And it seems like that sort of changed the sound in a way. Like after that, and you can disagree with this if you'd like, but it seems like the sound was less overtly 60s influenced and maybe a little less whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that his absence had an effect on the songwriting style, or were you just maturing as musicians and writers?
Yeah, I'd say so. The thing with us, we had 3 drummers in our history, and with each drummer, we were a different band because the drummer was each of them was an integral part of the band in their own way. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Alan was a very completely different drummer from Ian, also into different music. So yeah, but Ian was massively into 60s, stuff. Alan was much more into alternative sort of 80s stuff, The Cure, the Bunnymen, which we were as well, so it wasn't. But yeah, so you're right. I think it did sound like quite a different band, and it changed again when Rob joined as drummer a few years later.
And in the years with Alan, late 80s, early 90s, it seems like sort of a transitional phase for the band where you were gigging steadily but not releasing very much music.
Yeah.
There was a short-lived name change to the Wizard's Toys.
Which has now been in the public eye again because we went through that period in the 30 years ago page. Yeah, that was a very frustrating period because we basically, eventually we signed to a label, a Belgian label called Antler, which we thought was great at the time, great boost. But then, very long story, through one thing and another, they ended up basically not knowing what to do with us. And we just spent like 2.5 years almost doing nothing, not releasing anything, just waiting for something to happen. So yeah, that was we knew the kind of DIY pumping out the releases kind of period that we had was kind of over, and we probably peaked in terms of like coverage in like the music press and radio, even though it was never great, it was probably tailing off into nothing. So we kind of knew we had to do something special next, and then we ended up kind of not doing anything for a couple of years really. And that kind of, it changed a little bit when the Heads and How to Read Them album, they eventually made an album, and that was good, and we toured Europe with that and everything. But that just came out, and that was it. That didn't really do anything. And then the real thing that really saved us and led us to carry on for the next kind of 4 or 5 years was being picked up in the States, which is another story. And then getting signed to Homestead and then East West. But that was a long sort of fallow period in the middle where we didn't really do much. But like I say, we did, we kept kind of writing. We never stopped writing songs, only kind of, gigging here and there, probably sort of, lesser, but we never stopped gigging at all.
We'll continue with the first song on the second Proper Dentists LP, 1991's Heads and How to Read Them, called House the Size of Mars. I did want to ask about the major label period, because it is sort of a fascinating thing for me, just reading about the post-Nirvana gold rush.
Yeah.
The labels had all the money and were just signing people left and right. But even with that as background, it seems sort of anomalous to have the Dentists on an American major. East West was like an Atlantic subsidiary, is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
But I think that our centre of gravity shifted to America, so much so that it was East West America that signed us, and East West in the UK were going, "What are you doing? These guys are nothing. We've never even heard of them," which is quite weird. It was because I think, obviously, from our very early days, we had distribution and records got to the States, and we had letters. So we kind of knew there was people in the States that liked us, but it wasn't until we went over there for CMJ 91 that we actually realised. And then because we were there and we had that compilation album had come out on Homestead, and then people started writing about it, and it was, oh God, that we seem to be a lot more popular than we realised. Again, it was like good critical reception rather than huge public acclaim, but still, it was really, we realised that, we'd almost become this sort of cool underground band without noticing it. But I remember we stayed in New York at Chelsea Hotel, and there was a shop called Midnight Records on 23rd Street, and we went in just looking in the shop saying, I wonder if they've got our record, and then, and then realising that it's on a little display in the window with a little coloured sticker on it. It says, "Very cool UK psych," and we thought, "Ooh, that's us!" Wow, So and it was odd because in Britain by that time we were like nothing, and then we started releasing records again, but then the UK still didn't pick up on us, because I think it's UK music press at that time. Basically, everything went through them, and you couldn't be popular without their permission. And we were kind of getting records released and being, semi-popular without their permission. So even then, even those early 90s, we never got back into, the action was still all in America rather than the UK.
From Powdered Lobster Fiasco, a compilation released in America on Homestead Records, here's a track called Pocket of Silver.
big mistake we made was the sign to East West when that other label was interested right at the death.
What other?
When Creation approached us right at the death with about a week to go. Hence Powdered Lobster Fiasco coming out on Bull Product, which was an offshoot of Creation.
Oh yeah, but I think that was only a one-off, wasn't it?
Well, no, my understanding of the story was that we signed to East West, and a week later, Creation got in touch with our management and said, we want to talk to the dentist, can we sign the dentist? And our manager said, well, they've signed to East West like a week ago.
I didn't know that.
Did you not know that?
No.
How did you not know that?
I don't know.
That's what happened. So that was the thing. So you're right at the death, when we thought we were dead and buried in the UK. So we thought America was the big kind of thing. Let's go. East West want to sign us. They're very excited. Homestead were very excited. So we said, yeah, we're signed to East West. And then literally, I'm sure it was a week. It was very, very close. Creation got in touch with Pat, who was our manager, and said, we've heard the dentist, we want to sign them.
We just ended up having drug problems. And,
and Pat said, well, I signed them to East West like literally a week ago. So then Creation said, is there anything we can put out? Because we want to put something out. And we said, well, we have got a load of demos and bits and pieces that we could pull together. And that became the album that's called The Powdered Lobster Fiasco, which is basically a load of stuff.
That came out on Homestead as well. That came out on Homestead in the US and Creation / Bull Products in the UK.
Yeah, so it was old stuff, but so Creation, it comes out on a label called Bull Product, but that's a guy called Edward Bull who worked for Creation at the time. He was asked if he could do a little label of his own with Creation's backing. So that's one of my big regrets, is we didn't hang on. I don't think we had a chance to think about it. I think it happened after we signed. We literally put But did you not know that, Bob?
Did not know that. No, I didn't.
Okay. Yeah. And then, of course, they signed another band from Manchester, some dodgy band just after that. Oasis or something? I don't know.
Before that, wouldn't it? Yeah, but still, no, it'd been about the same time, wouldn't it?
No, it was. That's what happened. They signed Oasis about...
Well, there we go.
Bob, we need to have a conversation. That's what happened, but yeah. But America was great. I mean, we enjoyed having a clean slate, if you like, to kind of start again, really. And reception was good, touring was good. First time we had access to like a big studio and a proper producer and all the kind of things that we hadn't ever had before. So the producer kind of came with, this is my record, I'm going to make the record that I want to make. And that caused a bit of conflict, really, although I think he did a cracking job. Ingmar, I was thinking of.
I mean, I think that's a great record. I'm not got no complaints about that.
Behind the Door is my favourite. I mean, everybody talks about some people on the pitch, but in terms of a musician and the quality of the songs and everything, Behind the Door is the. If you said to me, play me one Dentist record, I'd play you Behind the Door.
Yeah, I do agree. I think our definitive records basically are Some People on the Pitch, Behind the Door. If you play those two, you get the Dentists. Everything else is great, but they're the two. Yeah.
Here's a highlight from the first Dentists album to come out on East West, 1994's Behind the Door, I Keep the Universe, called Faces on Stone.
Until you turn surround you just for fun, and nothing you can do is ever likely to begin to tempt your people into sin. So sit down and get miles away. You've used up all your sense today.
Was East West more of a hands-off label, or were they pushing you to do singles and, you know, all the major label complaints that people have?
No, not at all. In fact, I still, to this day, I'm not really sure what was in their minds. It might have been just that thing where the labels were just kind of doing lots of hedging and quite of let's hoover all the bands up and see what happens.
Yeah, if we're honest, it's what Charlie said. There was a gold rush. We want to sign. I don't know what the bands were kicking it off, but there was absolutely we need to sign a cool English band, and all the majors were signing a cool English band. I mean, there was all kinds of bands kicking around at the time, and I think we were East West, but they very much wanted us to kind of tour incessantly for like a year or 2 years or something, and then occasionally make a record is what they actually wanted us to do. And we were never really up for doing that, which again, it was a point in the whole dentist thing where we either should have gone for it and all, you know, chucked in our jobs and our lives and everything and just gone on the road. Although there's other bands that we know that did that and it never came off.
But they never interfered musically. We made the album, and literally the A&R guy, Darren, turned up one afternoon and went, yeah, sounds great. And that was it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, even on the second one, we just made the album we wanted to do, delivered it to them. You know, there was no... I'd almost like wanted them to care a bit more, you know.
But one thing that used to happen with major labels, that the A&R person that signed us is not the A&R person who we ended up taking us forward, which is a bit of a shame. We got signed by Lisa Barbaris. Do you remember Lisa Barbaris, Bob? She was the A&R person that signed us, and she was really into the band, which is what you need in a major record company. You need a supporter, you need a champion. And then she got offered a job with literally working for Simply Red. That's how crazy the story is. Working for Mick Hucknall. I think she was going to be his personal assistant or something. I don't know what happened to her. But so she left East West, and we then got assigned Darren, who, as Bob said, literally turned up one afternoon and said, yeah, this sounds great. But he was never really in our corner. Lisa was the person in our corner. A lot of bands used to have something written into the contract called a keyman clause. I presume it's a regular thing, where if you can name somebody, and if that person moves on, then you can get out of the contract. It's null and void. But obviously, we'd never heard of that, so not that we would have got out of the contract. But so we were then kind of sort of left to fend for ourselves with East West, and we became a small fish in a very big pond, I think. On one hand, you can say they didn't interfere. On the other hand, they didn't really give a shit too much, because from that point of view, I mean, they supported us. We did some great tours and we put 2 records out and everything, but they were never kind of totally like, you know, we've got you this tour with you two.
We've got on MTV once, you know.
Yeah, we got one.
Yeah, we made a video. It got played once. Yeah.
Yeah, we made a video. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In hindsight, they did the bare minimum, I think.
Yeah.
Up next, we'll hear another track from Behind the Door I Keep the Universe, which became the band's only music video, called Gas.
Just seems so wrong, I can never change.
did the tour with Shonen Knife come to pass?
That's a good question. What used to happen back in the day was you would have a band going on tour, and then the support bands would pay to go on the tour. Now, I don't know if East West paid for us to go on the Shonen Knife tour, but I know for a fact that Shonen Knife were offered a load of support bands, but liked the Dentists. So we got on that tour because Shonen Knife liked the Dentists. You know, of all the bands they were offered, I don't know who else they were offered, but they really liked the Dentists. So they said, yes, we'll take them. So whether money changed hands for that,
I think it did.
no, I'm not aware that it did. I never heard that. But I know that Shonen Knife picked us to go on the tour. So that was kind of really cool. And they were really cool, I mean, I have to say.
That was good fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Initially, we were very confused, to put it mildly. And then we realised that the whole thing was an elaborate kind of, almost like an elaborate hoax. They were literally taking the Ramones, turning it Japanese and kind of giving it back to the American people.
They played up to everyone's misconceptions about them. It was quite...
Yeah, it was brilliant.
A lot of... Some of the audience had a very... Even though they kind of liked them, the audience had a very kind of patronising view of them. They cute little Japanese girls. And they kind of... They played up to that. They were grown women for perfectly, savvy and everything else, but they just played up to that, the slightly patronising attitude of their audience, and they did it very well, and they're still doing it, I think.
Yeah. For the first few gigs, we were like, what on earth is this? We don't get it. And then they did the same kind of story on stage sort of 2 or 3 nights running.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly the penny dropped, didn't it, when they said
all
that?
the in-between song, and you thought, aren't they great? And it's like word for word every single night,
Yeah. They'd say, like, we went into town today and we saw a pink dog and he was very cute. And the crowd would go, oh, that's amazing, that's amazing. And like, they did tell the same story at every gig, and we'd be like, it's absolutely hilarious. And it was very clever. It was very slick and very kind of well done. But in the same way, we kind of sort of appreciated them because they could play up to a point, couldn't they? Although Heatwave did get on our nerves after a while.
Yeah. I ended that tour never ever wanting to hear a Shonen Knife again, not because there's anything wrong with it, but when you hear the same set and same sound check 27 times.
Yeah.
But they were great. We did them really well. And we had a lot of fun on that tour. Because the thing is, Dennis, we never went on tour that much. We had, occasionally we went on a decent tour, but we never toured, incessantly. I mean, for one thing, we all had, after the first couple of years, we ended up having quite good jobs. We couldn't, it's a big deal to kind of, we just scraped together some unpaid leave just to do the thing we did. But we were not in a position we're not prepared to put ourselves in a position where we just kind of gave up our jobs at the age of like 28 and started living in a squat or anything. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. We were the middle-class punk rock version.
From the Dentist's Swan Song, 1995's Deep Six, here's a song called Weirdo at 25,000 miles per hour.
I could see you staring, taking notes of my movements. You must be feeling very, very crazy. You look at me and think that I would save you. If I had Jesus Christ, I would leave you. Ocean City underneath my hat. Like burying me in your garden. Watching marigolds coming out smiling. Smiling, smiling, smiling. Little bit of polite conversation. Little bit of misunderstanding. Little bit of polite conversation. Little bit of misunderstanding. Now you're near me, I can hear your tongue move. Jimi Hendrix came to you in that picture. The keys bob up.
So shortly after the release of Deep Six, the second record on East West, the Dentists sort of unceremoniously disbanded, or at least Bob, you left, and the rest of the band carried on as Coax. What was the story there, and what was the decision to carry on as Coax?
You want to do that bit first?
Okay. Well, so we'd been going for 10 years and we tried everything and done everything and got a major label, done 2 albums. And the second album actually did a lot worse than the first. I don't think either of them sold, but the first one got lots of reviews and lots of college play. The second one just kind of didn't do anything. So I just came to the conclusion, well, that's it. That's got to be it. That's obviously the end. But then it turned out that was just me that thought that. The others were kind of more up for carrying on. But I just, so I didn't want it to be, it wasn't supposed to be, I'm leaving the Dentist. It was just supposed to be, well, for me, that's obviously the end of the road. But the others didn't think that, and I did. So that's basically the story there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, on paper, the whole putting us together with Wharton Tears, the Sonic Youth producer, seemed like a good idea. And Wharton was a really good guy, but he didn't really know what to do with the band. In hindsight, we should have gone back to Ingmar, however much we fell out. The guy did Behind the Door. However much we fell out with Ingmar, Mick really didn't like him.
The other guy who was in, who we ended up recording a couple of things with afterwards, but the other guy who was in contention for Deep Six, and I ended up, he couldn't do it anyway, was Mike Hedges.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine, I mean, he would have bust East West budget about Live Factory 4, but that would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, who then went on to do the Manic Street Preachers, a massive album. Not that we were in the Manic Street Preachers, but it still would have been good. But then, yeah, so the last thing we did was we did a recording in France with Mike Hedges at his studio, which was kind of weird because we knew Bob was leaving the band, but we still wanted to try and do this recording. This publishing company gave us some money and said, go in the studio and come up with some songs, but it was all a bit, I don't know, the songs didn't really work that well, did they, Bob, I guess? Because we were
I still like them. They both came out. We did 2 songs. They're both out on the compilation Flies, and I really like them, and they're very different from anything else we ever did, but yeah.
And then Coax was, yeah, exactly that. Bob was sort of calling time on it all. The rest of us weren't up for calling time. Obviously, we had to leave East West because it can't be the Dentist without Bob. So we called ourselves Coax, went through a few lineup changes, put an album out. The album, I don't know how much Bob's listened to that album, but I quite like the songs on the album.
No, I like that album. I've always liked that album. Yeah.
It's missing your guitar playing, obviously. But Mick, by this time, I don't know what album that is. It was that the 6th album or something that we'd all been making together. Mick actually wrote some complete songs, so music and lyrics. And I think some of Mick's best songs are on that album. They're lacking Bob's guitar, but they're actually Mick as a songwriter. That's the album where he actually finally came into his own.
Here's Coax with a song from their only LP, 1998's Fear of Standing Still, called Turning to Gold.
Turning to gold, all that she touches, I am a duke, she is a duchess of an incredible palace of dreams, gardens of silk and fabulous dreams, where a day can last forever, plenty of time to realize you've never had it so good, and it's all for her, what if she could only remember, where are the diamonds that she promised to bring? Set like eyes around the crown of a king. Turning to gold, turning to gold. I know I want her all the time, to touch my life and make it shine. Turning to gold, all that she touches, starting to find this much of a muchness in our incredible palace of dreams. Nothing that shines is quite what it seems, and the
Yeah, he's the Deep Six. He wrote about 3 all on his own. He was also starting to play guitar. Mick had never really been into playing guitar that much. He would just like strum a few chords. And Deep Six, by that point, he was getting really into odd tunings and odd little riffs. And he was like really to the guitar. Yeah, so that was changing the sound of the band anyway.
He discovered the Pixies, didn't he, during Deep Six? That was the thing that set him off. He really got into the Pixies, and that's the kind of... Do you know that album, Charles? Deep Six? If you listen to Slither, there's a song called Slither. That's like Mick trying to write a Pixies song, quite frankly, I think. I don't know, Bob, if you agree, but that's what I always thought.
I never thought about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I could see the vocal styling is a little less melodic and sometimes a little whispery, sometimes a little growly. So I could see Frank Black.
So Black Francis, absolutely. So he's doing that, which is fine by us. And I think, actually, that would have been an interesting evolution as we went in, to another album. But it was not to be. Bob's fault, obviously.
From Deep Six, here are the Dentists with that Pixies-influenced track called Slither. After Coax, you sort of go in your own directions, but Bob actually just sent a sort of family tree of what happened afterwards.
Yeah, I just decided to scribble that down. I thought, well, I'm not
Yeah,
sure
quite
how
a few.
decipherable it is.
I don't know what the timeline is on that, but yeah, that's pretty much.
They're not exactly in the right order in relation to each other, but I did write down the years, more or less.
So what came next? Fortress Madonna or Fortune West or?
I think Fortune West is the first one chronologically here.
Yeah, so on my side, I didn't do much for about the next 3 years after leaving the dentists. So while Coax was going on, I suppose while Coax were just about together, that's when Fortune West started. That was the band where I, with my mate Gary Robertson, that was completely different to dentists, and it's completely different to anything Gaz had ever done. And it was quite, we were unashamedly going for the bit of an AOR sound. So it was a bit like a Todd Rundgren, Glenn Campbell, kind of classy, kind of big stuff like that, you know. I mean, yeah, that was really good. We wrote some great songs. We weren't very productive at all. We wrote loads of songs. Only ever made one record, which was a single on a very obscure label. That was our mate's label, Collision.
Is that actually physically a single, Bob?
Yeah, in fact, you just wait there. 'Cause I'm going to go back into the room that I was, and I'm going to get my chart and my records.
We've started him off now. That's the problem with Bob. He's, but there are lots of kind of side projects and things. I don't really remember Fortune West, to be honest with you. I don't know what we were doing. Mick then did his own thing. He called it Fortress Madonna, but basically just roped us all in to help out. Our Bob's now showing us.
That's what it's called, prophetic or what?
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, you should re-release it, Bob. Now's the time to re-release it.
Yeah, you think so?
Here's Fortune West, with a lovely demo that was never commercially released, but which Bob posted on his SoundCloud page, of a song called It's Too Easy.
I stole your wallet. You look like you could afford it. I needed a drink in me, and she was so lovely. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy. I stole your car. I needed to get away. Not a license to drive. If it crashes, I'll survive anyway. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy. Put it in front of me. It's too easy. It's so easy. I stole your girl. I didn't think you were treating her well. I'll treat her better for a month or two, then forget her. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy. Put it in front of me. It's so easy. It's too easy.
After Fortune West, was it Fortress Madonna?
Yeah, no, it wasn't simultaneous. Fortune West, that came out in 2000. In fact, you can see it says on the back, recorded at Red Studios Rochester at the end of the 20th century. Literally, the last day of mixing was New Year's Eve 1999. So then, Fortress Madonna was basically Mick's project. So Coax, although you made an album, then Dave Reed from The Claim joined Coax, didn't he?
That's right.
Rob left, you got Russ in on drums,
That's right.
and Mick left, so
That's right, yeah.
one by one, that ended up being you, Dave and Russ, and that as words beginning with X. That was like a direct descendant of Coax.
Yeah.
Fortress Madonna was Mick's stuff. So Mick, after he left Coax, with his job, he went to live in Moscow and then Nairobi, where he still lives.
Johannesburg.
But when he was in, I think it was while he was still in Moscow or maybe Johannesburg, but he used to come home occasionally just for holidays, and he just used to go into the studio and record some songs. Did you play on?
On the Fortress
something.
Madonna. I did.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm credited or not, but I did play something based on it. Yeah.
Okay. I think I played on about half the tracks. You know, he literally called me up one day and said, "Oh, Bob, I'm in the studio. Do you want to come along and play?" Well, yeah, all right. Didn't know what it was for. Ended up that bit. That was an album. So Fortress Madonna was basically mixed band. There was another guy who sang and wrote in it called Nick as well. And so the funny thing about Fortress Madonna, even though it was mixed, it was my man, is that the band only ever did one gig.
Yeah, I like this story.
And it was quite a good gig. It was supported and guided by Voices at the Garage in London. But Mick organised the gig, and it was his band, but he didn't play it. He didn't play the gig. He got Nick to sing his part, so he just basically, he got us the gig and said, I can't make it, by the way, but I'm sure you'll be fine. So we worked. It's a good gig. It's fine.
It was good. You were really good. Yeah, I videoed it for you, didn't I? It was really good.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's a couple of songs on YouTube.
Yeah. They played really well.
Fortress Madonna, Garage. That was the night I really, really went off Guided by Voices.
They played for about 3 hours or something.
Played for 3 hours, and I wanted to go home, and my stuff was backstage, and I was thinking, will you stop?
Yeah, they literally played for ages and ages.
Yeah, they just did a New Year's Eve show where they played 100 songs over 5.5 hours.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly what they... And it's like...
Do Motor Away and be done with it, let's say. So that was Fortress Madonna. And so that was one LP, one album, and one EP, and that was that. That came out on a Australian label, was it? Called Laughing Outlaw.
Yeah, an EP and an LP, Fortress Madonna, wasn't it? I don't think I've got the EP, I've got the LP though.
From Fortress Madonna's 2003 EP, Estonian Female Snipers. Here's a song called Waiting for the Rose.
Take a look at the sunset as the fire burns out of control. The field's on fire and no one cares. Pages of a diary are written and thrown away. Every day passes by and you remember. Why am I waiting here for the rose? Why am I waiting here for the rose? 7 years as the river rises higher than the coloured rain. Name is Jones. Don't you know to let it go? If I could ever feel the emptiness of each and every day, except your time will come. Try to remember. Try to remember. Take cover. Take a look at the sunset as the fire burns out of control. The field's on fire and no one cares. Try to remember.
And the two of you were in the Great Lines?
Great Lines, yes. Nothing released, but stuff recorded. If we'd made a single, the thing that would have been the single is a song called Whatever Possessed Me, and you can find that on YouTube as well. And with a little video montage of the band when we went to South by Southwest in 2005. In fact, we could probably safe to say now, we only formed the band for the single purpose of we wanted to go to South by Southwest and play. So we formed a band literally just to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And we did. I don't know why we didn't. We should have just released something, but we never released anything. But that was basically a few of Mark's songs, a few of my songs that we had kicking around, played on each other's songs. That was that. Yeah, we did about 10 songs recorded, but we didn't do anything with them.
No.
Here are the Great Lines, with a stellar but unreleased song called Whatever Possessed Me.
So the thing about the Great Lines is that was, for both of us, that was the first time either of us had really sung, because remember going back to the original Dentist, we needed a singer because we thought, well, neither of us can sing. I mean, we kind of tried, but we thought, well, we can't do it.
Are you doing harmonies on any of the Dentist's records?
Yeah,
we are,
occasionally, yeah. And we tried harmonies live sometimes, but then Mick's face was like, So,
And also the problem with doing Harmony's Love is Mick would always forget the lyrics, so we'd always struggle.
so you couldn't.
That was very difficult.
So you couldn't, whatever line you were singing, Mick would be singing something different. So,
Yeah, almost certainly.
yeah. So, but in the Great Lines, we thought, neither of us are a great singer. Mark's a better singer than I am, but neither of us are super. I don't know. Mark is a good singer, all I'm saying, but I'm not particularly.
Hey, hello.
So that was it. So that Mark went on Echo Heights.
I'd written my own songs completely, lyrics, music, everything. I kind of got a taste for it, and then that's where the Echo Heights came from, which was then my band with other people. And part of the deliberate process of the Echo Heights was that it wasn't anybody, and nobody from the Dentist was involved. That was kind of part of the thing. I wanted to see if I could work with other musicians, which went okay. And again, we put an album out and did a little bit of an American tour and played a couple of gigs here and there.
But I was thinking, Mark, I couldn't remember. Russ wasn't in Echo Heights, was he?
No.
No.
Nick Westcott was the drummer. It was Nick Andy, who was in Great Lines.
Yeah.
Nancy and me. But doing the Echo Heights, if I'm honest, I kind of realised that I needed people that I understood a bit better around me. So then when I did something else after that, then it was going back to Bob and Russ and saying, are you interested in getting involved in this? Because Russ is about steady as they come in terms of drumming. And Bob's obviously just...
Yeah, so there are lots of different branches to this tree. Russ Baxter pops up in most of them. So he was a drummer in Fortune West, or the second drummer in Fortune West. He was a drummer in Coax, and then he ended up again becoming the drummer in Treasures of Mexico.
From the only release by the Echo Heights, an album released in 2010 called Your Fortune as Told by the Stars. Here's a song called Rooftops.
He's leaving the house, scanning the rooftops, he's climbing the hill, it's another day. Caught in the breeze, but wrapped up for winter, smiling intense as he finds his way. And he's going out, across all the traffic, he's into the park and over the line. Walking to town while forming opinion, thinking of ways to deceive his mind. And he knows it doesn't belong. And he spends every day just holding on. Now we're coming back, we're up to the houses that live in the streets where nobody breathes. He's crossing the road, just changing his viewpoints and finding the holes in his pockets with peace. He's taking it in, he's letting it out, he's sketching a plan as the light starts to leave, dragging the past back up from the memory and swirling it round until he starts to believe. And he knows he doesn't belong. And he's spending every day just holding on. But something is clearly wrong. And he knows he doesn't belong. And he's spending every day just holding on. But something is clearly wrong. Yes, something is clearly wrong. Yes, something is clearly wrong. Yes, something is clearly wrong.
Because of doing the Great Lines, I thought, I actually can sing, just about credibly, can sing in public. Okay, that kind of works, just about. And in the Great Lines, when we went South by Southwest, the first night we got there, me and Russ went out downtown. The others were too tired, but just me and Russ went out, and there was this like open mic thing. But this first night we were there, and Russ said, "Why don't you get up?" And I said, "Well, I can't get up. I can't do stuff like that. I can't just get up on my own." And And he went, well, why not? We're here to play in the band. I thought, yeah, I suppose so. So I got up, I did a couple of the songs we were doing in the Great Lines. Just me, and it's the first time in my life, at the age of 40, that I'd actually just gone up with an acoustic guitar on my own and played it and sang. And I thought, shit, I almost got away with that. So then I thought, well, maybe I can do that. And then I just thought, right, let's see if I can do this. So then I started playing under my own name, just as a solo acoustic guitar, some of the, with my own songs. Billed myself as Bob Collins, which isn't my name. Funny enough.
Yeah, controversial.
Although the weird thing is, a lot of people, when they go out as a solo artist, they kind of make up another name, like Badly Born Boy or something like that. And I always think, if you're going to do it and say, right, this is me, why not use your own name? So it's very, very weird indeed. The first time you actually put it on a poster and you think, God, how can I do that? How can I put my own name and say, come and watch me sing? But I thought, people do it, so let's just do it. So I tried that, and that was okay. But then people quite rightly used to come up to me and say, Bob, that's not bad, but you kind of need a band, they're kind of band songs, not really one man and his guitar songs. So therefore I got a little band together and called it Bob Collins and the Full Nelson. And so I got Rob, who was the third drummer in the Dentist, so he became drummer, Bob Collins and the Full Nelson, and Mark Aitken, who, if you go back, way back, had been the bass player in the Ascoyne Dascoynes, which was my kind of sideline during the Dentist.
There's a test at the end, Charlie. I hope you make it all in.
So, basically, I made one album, which is I have here.
Bob's got pops.
Telescopic Victory Kiss. But all I wanted to do was basically, my whole reason for doing that was just like, let's see how far I can credibly take me being a singer and singing my own song. So having done it and having got the band, and eventually we kind of, over a 2 or 3 year period, eventually kind of made that album. Just having done that, I had no kind of desire to kind of keep on doing it, except that when we had the album launch, I was quite keen on the idea that our album launch gig would also be our farewell gig. So launch the debut album and break up the same gig. Then my friend Adrian went and spoiled it by offering us a support gig with the Long Riders in Brighton. I thought, I can't turn that down. So, but that was our last gig.
And you were better than the Long Riders that night, in my opinion.
Well, some people said that, didn't they? I couldn't possibly.
Yeah, I thought you were much better.
Anyway.
Here's a highlight from the only album to date by Bob Collins and the Full Nelson, 2015's Telescopic Victory Kiss, called Wait for December.
To get ahead, not any
So that was, Bob Crosby, Phil Nelson. So that album was about like 3 years from when we started recording it, and it was like, things go slowly. You think, oh, I'll do that, I'll remix that track, and then, while 6 months later, you're still doing it. And Mark was doing the first Treasures in Mexico album, which I had played on as well. And then without really talking to each other about it, we both eventually ended up releasing these albums within like a week of each other. Which I don't know if that was, if that helped or hindered. But anyway, they both came out in 2015. Then, so I also joined another band that I'm still in and I've played on a few albums, which is Stuart Turner and the Flat Earth Society. Very new album called Implicit Narrative. I should check that, which we launched the other week, the last day of non-lockdown mode. And that's really good. But again, very different from anything that I've been doing in the Dentists. I can't begin to describe what the music is like, but I can't. They've made Stuart's made lots of albums. I've been on the last 3.
Okay.
So that's really good. Also, as you'll see on that, so Rob, drummer of Dentist, Phil Nelson, his current band is called These Guilty Men, also with Mark from the Phil Nelson, and Simon's a singer. They're really good. They're just about to release their debut album soon. I don't know when. And the Treasures of Mexico did the second album, became a live band for the first time due to me nagging Mark to let's play live.
Yeah, I'm still not overly happy about that.
It's great. Also, we've done 3 gigs, so obviously not doing any more for a while. So there we are.
From the debut Treasures of Mexico album, 2015's Holding Pattern, here's a song called Stars.
Everything seems okay when I have you on my own. When we are all alone for the evening, everything seems just fine. Feels like it's so much time. Feels like you're all mine, but then you're leaving, and then the stars come out like the sky, and I feel like a hero for half an hour. And then the stars come out like the sky. Is everyone a hero? What's your special power? Summer will creep away, leaving me on my own, writing you on the phone, but still believing something will need to change, whether it's you or me, until we're both set free from this feeling. And then the stars come out, they light the sky, and I feel like a hero for half an hour. And then the stars come out and light the sky. Is everyone a hero? What's your special power? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then the stars come out and light the sky, and I feel like a hero for half an hour. And then the stars come out and light the sky. Is everyone a hero? What's your special power? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I did want to mention, about 10 years ago, the Dentists did get back together for a reunion gig and the Odds and Sods compilation.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, it was
Good knowledge,
just looking at the date here. It was like 10 years ago in a couple of days, wasn't it?
2010, yeah, that was really
Well,
good.
scary.
2 gigs, one in London, one in Gillingham, which is where we're from, really, the representer. And that was really good fun, wasn't it? Mick has, I don't know how long, but for quite a while now, probably 15 years, maybe 20 years, has been living in Africa. Or he went to Moscow, then he went to Johannesburg, then he went to Nairobi, as Bob said. And he was a bit overwhelmed with how many people were interested. I mean, people showed up to those shows that none of us had seen for like 10, 15 years. And heard the dentists were playing and came. And Mick was just totally overwhelmed by the whole thing. And also, if we're honest, he was very out of practice. And whereas the rest of us have been playing in bands and doing stuff, Mick was like a sort of, rabbit caught in the headlights. He was like, what do I do? He's like, Bob, what did I play here? What do I do? What's the lyrics here, kind of thing. So the whole thing was a bit of an overwhelming experience for him. So I'll be very surprised if it ever happens again, but it was good.
But those gigs were great because, I mean, they were the two my best attended gigs. Because obviously you got like 15 years of interest built up. So,
yeah,
we had more people, especially for headline gigs, more people at those gigs than we did at any time before, really. And the Gillingham one, the second night particularly, I just think that was my favourite dentist gig ever. It was just because everyone was there, just absolutely loving everything about it, and it was great, So
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but Harry came. My son came to that gig, and the dentist was before his time, so he was 18. He'd never seen us play because obviously I think by the time we split up he was like 3 or something. The Gillingham gig, as Bob said, was like just full on, and he came up afterwards and said, I had no idea. That's my takeaway from the gig. He said, I had no idea this many people would be. He thought we were playing in the back room of a pub and it was going to be like 20 people and a dog or something, and it was, I don't know, 250 people, and it was just capacity in this tiny pub in Gillingham.
He was describing most of the gigs we did between 1990 and 95.
Yeah. That was quite nice.
And then 5 years after that, we did another fantastic gig, which
without Mick.
Without Mick, but we did that in a smaller venue, also in Gillingham though. But we had guest singers, so we just basically, I don't know how many people. It must have been like 10, 15 people.
Yeah.
All doing a couple of songs. So we were basically the backing band, and that involved Ian as well as Rob, and that was great. That was really great.
That was good. Yeah. That's really good. We asked people to say what song they wanted to sing, what they wanted to do. 2 people came over from America to do it, which was that blew my head up particularly. So
there's like on YouTube as well, which some of those are great performances.
Yeah. Do you think Brian took the accolade for his performance of Tony Bastable versus John Notes?
Certainly, he performed with the most energy. Yeah, he was like I was just watching the other night, they showed Otis Redding on Ready, Steady, Go from like 1966 when he's stomping around the stage, and that was Brian. Yeah.
That's Brian, yeah. I'll try and send you a link, Charlie, it's funny.
Here's a track from 2010's If All the Flies Were One Fly, a collection of rare and unreleased dentistry, 1984 to 1995, recorded by Mike Hedges during the final Dentist's recording sessions, called Settle Down.
Settle down in front of me. Break my hand, break all of me. Only see what you want to see. Are your blind eyes hereditary? There's a window open wide. I can see myself outside. Settle down by my side. Be my friend.
Are there any plans for the future, like more Treasures of Mexico music coming out? Are there any plans to reissue some of the out-of-print or any of the stuff that never got released in the first place?
There's nothing by the Dentist now that never got released. Everything we can possibly think of, I think we probably put on If All the Flies Were One Fly, the last thing we did. We got lots of live tapes, but to be honest with them, they are literally on old-fashioned cassette, and I don't know if we could even squeeze a live album out of that. We might do, but I don't know if there's any demand for it. In terms of the Treasures, I'm just going to keep doing it as long as it's enjoyable. And to be honest with you, with Russ and Bob and Nick, who's the new bass player because we're playing live, it is pretty much the most easygoing, fun band you could possibly be in, because there's just no egos, there's no prima donnas, I'm the biggest prima donna in the band, and even I have my moments, but even, I'm quite happy to defer to the others, kind of thing. So the Treasures, we're just going to keep doing it as long as we enjoy it.
We've got a single coming out, haven't we, Mark?
We have got a single coming out at the end of May, so we've got 3 tracks in the can, as they say. Still trying to make my mind up as to what we want to do. Yeah, single wise. We've done the 2 albums, which is basically just because I had the songs. But I think an album as a format is struggling a little bit at the moment. So my kind of tactic is to go with singles and possibly then compile a load of singles on an album if anybody actually wants it, maybe just downloadable or something. But what seemed to work is singles, and radio then seemed to pick up on singles. I don't know if that's the right way forward. Downloads, Bandcamp, all that kind of stuff. We need to be a bit more savvy with that, really. But so we're I was working with a label I think they're in Seattle, Shelf Life, but I think they're a bit overwhelmed by the amount of stuff they put out. So we're now sort of working with a label called Spin Out Nuggets, who put the previous single out, and we'll put the next single out and the single after that. And then we might talk about doing an album with Spin Out Nuggets, because they're more into sort of vinyl more than CD. I don't know as Lee puts CDs out at all, to be honest with you. But so the Treasures, I think me and Bob, if I'm honest, we're just the sort of people who always play music. Bob even more so than me. And I think both of us will just keep doing it while we're having fun. I'm trying to get Bob to do another Bob Collins and the Full Nelson album, because although he's the world's slowest songwriter, if he put his mind to it, he probably could do it. He's more happy for me to write the songs and him to come in and pull them about and manipulate them. He prefers to do that, I think. That would be fair to say, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, that's my kind of what I do best, I think.
Yeah, no complaints about that. So we're going to do more stuff. I don't think there's any more Dentist stuff to come. There's the Great Lions album that's kicking around, so we could possibly do something with that, although potentially I think there's no point with the Great Lions. I think the more likely thing is that Bob might recycle his songs and I might recycle my songs, potentially. There's a couple of good songs. I really do like
Well, one of the Great Lions songs was a song called Wings, which Mark did on
that's true.
album. Yeah,
we did recycle that. The other band that's got material kicking around is a band called Words Beginning with X, which was Russ from the Treasures of Mexico and Dave Reed from The Claim. The reason that didn't really work for me is because Dave, as much as he's a lovely guy and I love him to bits, he's not, he doesn't really get anybody else's songs. He only really wants to do his own stuff, which is fine. So that's kind of one of the reasons the Treasures of Mexico ended up being formed, because I'd come to Dave with a song and Dave would go, yeah, and he'd try it and he didn't really get it and he didn't really understand it. And so we sort of left it. So there's things kicking around. There's enough stuff kicking around. I think the Treasures new stuff is good. I'm really pleased with what the guys have done on it. So we'll just keep going, really. But it's just because we enjoy it now. It's no other reason, really. I'm not expecting to be the next Rick Astley.
the reference points you're going to hit.
I was trying to think of somebody.
No one is going to be the next Rick Astley.
Yeah, one's more than enough, let's be honest.
And that's just about all the time we have for this week's Salute to the Dentists. I'd like to thank Bob and Mark profusely for being so generous with their time and sharing so many great stories. For more information about the Dentists, you can visit their official website at thedentistsweb.com or join one of their Facebook fan groups, one simply called The Dentists and another called The Dentists 30 Years Ago, which lays out the band's entire history through diary entries, photographs, and press clippings, all posted 30 years to the day after they happened. Be sure to tune in again next week, when our topic will be songs about being alive. But before we go, here's the bittersweet closing track from the second Treasures of Mexico album, 2018's Everything Sparks Joy, called Dream On. This is Charlie, signing off.
Lately I've been thinking that this ship of fools is sinking, with me holding decision, cut all ties with your incision. Now the bond is gone. I know the answer. It's the question